All right, we are going to make the smiley face animation. I love how influencers and like internet people have to like caveat things like, well, a bunch of you asked for this, so now we're going to make it. And I usually don't believe them, but in this case, a bunch of you did ask for this one. So because it was the thumbnail, it is kind of the funnest one. I was inspired by like Dead Mouse visuals and kind of just the general craziness of his mouse head stuff. So yeah, the first thing we need to do is get the faces figured out. How do we do? So linked in the description is a link to download these vector files. If you don't have Illustrator, you can use a different vector software. Or if you don't have vector software, I don't know what to do. Maybe Photoshop, but get something that can handle vectors where you can look at these. And so what I basically did was I was able to just select a specific one. Let's say one without a bunch of ridiculousness. We'll take him. So I just took a whole face, and then I did a 5" by 5" scene. And so I'll take the last one that I used and remove it. And then we'll paste in the new face. And then I'll just go ahead and remove that. And then get this to fit in a defined area. So I'm going to take this. Something like that. So I defined like this main area to fit the mouth and the eyes in so that when we are switching through them, they kind of have a general, they can stay in the same spot so I know it's not going to look weird when they flip through. Then I took this and exported it out. So we'll do export for web, and then we'll say what? So if I do 500%, it'll give me 1800 by 1800, my original files. So I ended up exporting all of these out. The original files that came out, which were arguably a little too big, were, let's see, made these 4680 by 4680. That's pretty huge. I just wanted to be safe, and so that ended up being what? So like 1300? Yeah, there we go. So I did 1300 scaling, and that outputted this, and then I would save it out. And so I would say, I'm going to show you one more just for full context. So let's say I'll delete him. We'll go back, and then I want to take this guy. So I need to do the direct select, grab him, paste it in, and then go ahead and start deleting things. Oops. There we go. And then fit all of these objects in the place they need to be. Which it's being weird. I guess I'll just select every individual. There we go. And then we export that out. And by the end of it, you just export however many faces that you're looking for. And then I'll show you really quickly. Then I edited them all together. You can use the Blender sequence editor if you don't have your own editor, but I'm going to pull up Premiere. So I then imported all of the faces, and I just took them 3 at a time. So just take this one and say, I knew that I wanted my animation to be 120 frames long. And so that would be, so I did kind of the math and thought, all right, so maybe 6 frames long for this one. And so we'll take this guy. So we'll have him, and then we'll take the next one, and we'll place him where he needs to be, and then we'll do the last one here. Just like that. So then I'll take this and then duplicate them until we get to 120 frames. So just do a ton of pasting. There we go, 120. We'll stop it there. And so now that's really, really fast. And so maybe we'll export this out. And I go, okay, so I like this. So we have this one, but I want them all to be at different paces because we're going to have, I guess, 3 different sets. So this one we have going this speed. And so I'll take another one and I'll have these faces animate twice as long. So we'll take him and have these guys, one plays at the length of 2 of the original. And so we'll take that and we'll bring that over to 120 frames as well. So we'll say, all right, he stops there. Maybe we'll trim it out. So there we go. Now we have 120 frames of this one going a little bit slower. And then you can just kind of variate that. And then by the time I finished, I had exported out a 1080 by 1080 export of, each one of them going at different speeds. And so now that we had that, we can now go into Blender and start making this. And so what we need to do is get some spheres and unwrap them. So we'll just go ahead, we'll get a UV sphere here, and let's add that material to them. So I'll just bring this up, and we'll get the shader editor, click new, and let me show you how to import video. So I'm gonna hit Control T and open up. So I'm gonna take, say, video 3. I'm gonna see how it looks on my scene. So he is not unwrapped properly. So what I'll do is I'll go hit U and do a sphere projection. Then we'll go to UV editing and fix it a little bit. For some reason, and maybe it's because I'm doing it wrong. I can't imagine I'm doing it wrong just by clicking sphere projection, but notice how it's stretched when it's square. And so all I have to do is just kind of fix it by stretching it. And then that's weird. And we can go ahead and fix that within our nodes. So we'll go back to shading, and then we need to go ahead and click on extend, and that is going to remove it. And so now we have this face. We can do cyclic auto refresh, and if I press play, it doesn't want to play. Oh, because we need to give it 120 frames. And now we have that. And so what you would do is just go ahead and rinse, repeat all of your videos. And I'm going to take him, make him kind of shiny. And then you can go here to the sheen, pick kind of an orange, and then bring that weight in. And now you have what would previously be called layer weight. And now you can add like this kind of orange effect. You can kind of see it happening there on the emoji. And then you can kind of pick how much it affects it. So now you can have that. I'm just going to use one just to kind of keep this tutorial not too super long, but we'll keep him. And let's go ahead and we can use him as, actually we'll do one more just to show you guys how to use a collection. So we'll get him, we'll get one more video here. So I forgot to click the number 2. There we go. So we'll pick him, tell 120 frames, and notice how they're moving at different speeds, and that is what we want. And I mean, we might as well just do the next one. We're already in the hole. So let's do video number 4, and then tell it 120 frames. There we go. We are now cooking. So now we're ready with our particle system. We can go, I'm gonna turn this back into a timeline and open up a new window, and we can go and jump into geometry nodes and actually set this up. We're in the shading tab. Here we go. So we'll turn this back into a timeline, bring it down. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight these, hit M and add it to a new collection. Just gonna call it whatever I want. I'm gonna call it faces, and let's head into geometry nodes. So now let's go ahead and click on the collection up here so it doesn't show up in the faces collection. I'm gonna hit Shift A, and we're gonna add in a plane. We're gonna click new, and then let's go ahead and add in a cube. Throw that there. We need to get a mesh to volume. And we're going to get a distribute points in volume. We're going to scale this guy up to 10. So now we have this cube full of particles, and we're going to get a transform geometry and a instance on points, just like this. And let's go ahead and pull in that whole faces collection. We're going to click these 2 check marks here to set it up properly. We're going to click pick instance and put that right into the instance. And if we look at it here, bam, we have all these guys looking good. We can play with their scale. I do want to play with their base scale. So we're going to do a scale instances node, and then we can just kind of play with their base intro scale before we play with it here. And then if you want more control, say they're not rotated the way you want, or you do want to rotate them, you can do a rotate instances node as well, and that's going to help you rotate them all. Now we can randomly rotate them over here, and I'll show you how to do that later because that's going to really make it look fun. But now that we're here, we can just kind of minimize these 2 just to keep them in a good place. And then what you can do now is we need to create the loop. So I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to hit Control-Shift-D so everything stays connected, and that Control-Shift-D works if you have the Node Wrangler add-on. We're going to get a join geometry so we can start to get these guys together. Now what we're doing is tiling our particle system. So what I'm going to do is, since this guy is scaled by 10, this original cube, we're going to move this guy on the positive 10 on the x-axis, and then we're going to take another one. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-D, and we're going to get this on the negative 10 to make a perfect tiled particle system, and that's really important for this animation to actually loop. Let's create the scale. Let's create the proximity scale system. So first what we need to get is a empty. Where's he at? Empty, and we'll just use a sphere, and then we'll drag that empty into here as the beginning. We're going to get a mesh line, and that's really just to serve as some amount of mesh data so we can see where it's located. And it's invisible, and we're just going to give it a count of 1 for it to properly work. And then we're going to use the location on the start location. We need to get a geometry proximity node. So geometry proximity, and we're going to switch it over to points, plug mesh into target, and then we need to get a map range in order to edit what we're about to do. So we'll get a map range, plug distance into value, and then we'll plug everything into the scale of each instance on points node. So we'll just plug result right into scale of everything. And then let's go ahead and invert this node. So max is 0, minimum is 1. Then you can play with this, and then you can play with this transition to smooth like that. And this is really going to affect how they come in and come out. All right, so now we have this. Everything is intersecting. It's kind of ugly. We don't like that. So what I'm going to do is just get a special little node called a merge by distance node. So I'm going to hold down Shift and right click, and we're going to get a merge by distance, and then play with your distance until these guys aren't touching anymore. So this is pretty good. We like this. Now we're ready to actually animate this guy. So we're going to take our empty. So make sure you have the empty selected. And again, since we scaled the cube here, or the original cube by 10, we need to move it on the 10. I mean, it's in real space, it's a scale of 5. And so we need to move it from the -5 to the +5. So we'll click back on this empty. And then what we're going to do is click keyframe. We're going to start here on the -10 to make it work properly. Go here, and then animate it to the +10. So now if we press play, it's scaling in. We can see our faces animating in, coming in, looking just really fun and weird, and we love it. So now what I'm going to do is set up my camera to make this look great. So I'm going to get my camera, and really it doesn't matter where you place it in the beginning. So I'm going to hit Control-Alt-0, snap it to view. And then let's see, we can just kind of, we'll just leave it. I'm going to click on the camera, hold down Control, click on the empty, Control P for the parent, and click on object, and that is going to parent the camera to the empty. And then now you just hit this drop down on the camera, and then just kind of move your camera around to however you want. I'm going to hit R twice and just kind of rotate it. And you can pause if you want to have a little bit more control. And then I'm going to zoom in. There we go. It looks pretty chaotic and fun, and that's what we like. I'm going to go ahead and give myself a square aspect ratio here. And then let's tweak these guys a little bit before we finish up with lighting. So I'm going to go back to geometry nodes, or just open up this window here. And then I'm going to give myself fewer of these faces. And then I'm going to scale them up a little bit. Like this. I like that a lot better. And this is going to respond better to the lighting. I do want to add some random rotation on everything. So see how these guys in the back are rotating? I want to randomize that. So the way you can do that is getting a random value and plugging that into the rotation of all the instance on points. So rotation, and now notice there's a problem. They're all kind of going crazy. I really want to rotate them on one axis. So I'm going to hold down Shift and right click, and we're going to get a combine XYZ, and I just want to rotate them. Let's see, where do I want to rotate them on? That, so we'll just plug it straight into the X. And there we go. Now we have random rotation as these guys are coming in. Sweet. All right, now all we need to do is just light this and be done. It's a very simple lighting setup. So I'm going to click on the, we're going to go to cycles. You can use Eevee if you'd like. Cycles will look a little bit better though. So let's add a light, get that area light. And let's go back to the beginning of the timeline. Maybe right over here. Okay. And so I'm hit G to move it over. And then I'm going to hit R twice to point it right at my spheres. And then I'm going to go switch this over to a disk. And then stretch it out and scale it up. And then make it really bright. So let's look. How does this look? So now we have this. And you can bring in your spread if you want. I think it looks fine. And then I'm going to hit the tilde key to go to the very top. I'm going to hit Alt-D, G to move it over, and then R to move it over here. There we go. All right, so I'm going to bring my world brightness down to black so I can kind of see a final view. I don't like the light on the side. I think just his position as a whole is not making me very happy. So we'll make him over there. I'm going to hit R to rotate it. Maybe he just needs to be brighter. And then maybe he needs to be, the other one needs to be brought out over here, maybe farther back. Okay, maybe too much of a shadow. Something like that. All right, cool. Then we can just bring up their brightness as a whole. All right, and then we need to make sure to parent them. So I'm gonna hold down Control, click, and then click on the empty, Control P, and click on Object. And now everything's moving with the faces, everything's moving around. You can add some volume if you want. I actually did like just a plain black background. And so now we have a nice loop with all of the faces doing their crazy face thing, having some fun. It's a completely seamless loop. I love it. They are intersecting right now. You just would scale them down to make sure they don't touch. But other than that, this is how you create it. I love this one. It's weird. It's quirky. It's fun. Hopefully you get some use out of it. Hopefully there's some new stuff that you learned from this that you can apply to your own work. Thank you guys for supporting me here on Patreon, and I'll see you in the next one.